Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the Skills Development Summit, and this is day 2. If you've only just tuned in, you did miss out quite a bit, but we still have a jam-packed day for you. Please don't forget to hashtag Skills Summit 22. That is hashtag Skills Summit 22 on all our social media platforms, and do engage with our exhibition and our expo as well, and even in the chat room, so you can stand a chance to win great prizes. I won't be taking much of the time that is left. We are talking future perfect skills for employability and entrepreneurship. And this morning we're joined for a panel discussion called Technology, Jobs, and the Future of Work. And with me are our great panelists. We have Mr. Jonathan Foster Pedley, who is the Dean and Director at Henley Business School. We also have Ms. Nyari Samoshonga, who is the CEO of We Think Code, bridging the gaps between business, technology, and education. We also have joining us this morning Riabetswe Simenya, who is the Managing Director at John Buck Solutions. And last but not least, we have Mr. Mpuka Radingu, Executive Director, Publishers Association of South Africa. Welcome to all of you, and thank you very much for gracing us with your presence. Okay, so I'm going to ask, perhaps we can start with Ms. Nyari. Please do introduce yourselves. And after Nyari, we'll have Jonathan, we'll have Riabetswe, and then Mr. Radingu.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Taban. So I'm Nyari Samoshonga, CEO of We Think Code, and we're a software development academy that's really focused on driving inclusion in training South Africa's youth to be able software developers so that they can participate in all these opportunities that are coming with this technological advancement. So I'm excited to be part of this panel as we discuss how can we start to create alternative pathways that bring more of South Africa's youth to the table of creating technological solutions.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Ms. Nyari. John?
Hi, I'm John Foster Pedley Tabang. Thank you very much for introduction. That was great, Nyari. Impressive. I'm the Dean and Director of Henley Business School in Africa. We're the only quadruple accredited business school in Africa. So we're accredited by the Association of African Business Schools, first one to do so. And we're an international business school. We've been here for 30 years in South Africa, and we're level 1 BE. And we have a whole range of programs from MBA to 5, 6, 7 executive education as well. And our motto is, we build the people who build the businesses that build Africa. Thank you.
Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much, Mr. Pedley. Riabetswe?
Thank you, Tabang. Good morning, everyone. My name is Riabetswe Simenya. I am the Managing Director of John Buck Solutions. We are an IT company that focuses on transformative digital solutions. What that entails in a nutshell is managed IT services that transforms our customers' environment from traditional IT environment to the cloud. In a nutshell, this is what we do. I'm excited to join in this conversation, which entails that technology is changing in our world, and how do we prepare in the education sector? How do we prepare as business to cover this new change that we are in at the moment? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Simenya. Thank you. Mr. Radingu?
Thank you, ma'am. As you've already indicated, my name is Mpuka Radingu, the Executive Director of the Publishers Association of South Africa. PASA. PASA is the largest publishing industry body in the country with 123 members. The majority of them book and journal publishers in the field of fiction, non-fiction, education, academic, and trade publishing. Our members, the majority of our members are South African publishing houses for profit, non-profit, university presses, small and medium-sized company, and multinational enterprises. I guess a lot more information can be found on our website at www.publishsa, not pass, publishsa.co.za. I'm happy to be here to learn and contribute on the topic of technology, jobs, and the future of work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Radingu. Let me start with you, Nyari. That was quite a poignant introduction there. So I'm just going to pick up from what you mentioned, how can we bring the youth to meaningfully participate in building digital capacity?
Well, I think, we speak of future jobs, and the reality is that the future is upon us. And COVID accelerated our adoption of digital technology. Before this even happened, we had an acute shortage of skills within the tech sector. So a lot of businesses in South Africa are struggling to find software developers. At the entry level, for the graduate level, it's estimated by LinkedIn that up to 40,000 entry-level jobs in South Africa are going unfilled each year. At the same time, South Africa has this huge youth unemployment problem. And so 6% of South African adults actually hold a bachelor's degree. And so somewhere between this 94% of adults that do not have a bachelor's degree and this 40,000 unfilled jobs, We Think Code moves in to sit in the gap and say, how do we transition this potential that sits within the 94 that are underserved by existing education channels, and then transfer them into a place where they can actually work and be productive in the digital sector, which creates huge opportunity. And so our role is really, how do we recruit young talent, people with the aptitude to code? How do we train them in an intensive 16-month program to become software developers? And then how do we pathway them to employment within this digital sector? And in our world, we're recruiting youth from ages 17 to 35. We're training them on our campuses. Their tuition is covered by South African corporations that are looking for these skills. So that makes it accessible to everyone, people that wouldn't have afforded it, people that finished matric a while back, people that, like me, I was an accountant before I moved into technology, take a scenic route to the tech table. And we recruit them and we train them to be software developers. And we're working with innovative businesses in South Africa. Our partners include FNB, BBD, the software consultancy, BCX, which is big into technology. And we are working with these organizations to get them the skills that they need, because we're letting our youth down. They have the potential, they have the capability, but our systems are not pathwaying them from the unemployment queue to the jobs that are available.
Sure, 100%. So there's definitely a misalignment in that regard. John, I see you clapping your hands there, man. Perhaps you can come in.
I want to work for her.
You want to work for her?
Amazing.
We are hiring.
Brilliant initiative. That's just fantastic. We must talk. We must try and collaborate. So that sounds amazing.
So John, maybe you can come in there as you applauding what Nyari was saying. I think it's a very valid point. With the misalignment that she painted, how do you think we can bridge the gap between technology, the jobs that industry require, and also the future of work? And I mean, you are well equipped because of the environment you're exposed to in a business school. You guys are saying you build people to build businesses. Maybe you can just comment on that.
Yeah, I'll pick up a couple of things that Nyari was saying as well. Like the idea of these very small number of people getting degrees. You can tell from my accent that once upon a time I was British, although that was about 2 generations ago. I came here. But the point is that in the UK and other places, 50% of people have undergraduate degrees. So we are doing level 5, 6, 7 programs while people are working, which is equating to the first 3 years of an undergrad degree. But the average age of those people is 37, which means that you've got in South Africa this massive number of people who never got degree education. It wasn't relevant, or they didn't have access, or whatever, or they had to do this because of the past. But now they're working, and we have to recover these people. But the other thing about entrepreneurship is that middle-aged and older entrepreneurs are fundamentally more successful, according to MIT research, than younger ones. They can build up businesses that employ the young as well. So there are a number of things we have to do. And one of them is that the schooling system is too focused on a type of educational outcome that is very good for the Industrial Revolution, but very poor for the world that people are entering now, which is all about critical thinking and project-based work, and experiential learning. And there's a few things I'll share later about how we see the world expanding. But you've got to have agile learning. People have to learn in action all their careers, because things are moving so fast. So having a core skill like coding is brilliant, but they need a whole set of other skills about working, about developing themselves, and about understanding their cognitive capabilities abilities has been phenomenal, not little things. We tend to underestimate the power of ordinary intelligence. I'm an ordinarily intelligent person. You know, we are most of us ordinarily intelligent, and ordinary intelligence is sublime. We must stop trying to be these exceptional, crazy Marvel superheroes. Who we are is great. We just have to get people to believe.
I would love to interrogate what you mean by ordinary intelligence. So it means EQ must be at a certain level. And you're very right, because when it crosses over, it's 5 to madness, you know, so we can get challenged in that regard. Thanks, John.
None of us want to be ordinary, or we all want to be some superhero. What we've got, good enough. We just got to start understanding that. Yeah.
And we missed the detail on the ground. Thank you for that. Semenya, maybe you can come in there. How do we prepare for the change that technology and digitalization requires us to have?
Thank you, Tabang. In my opinion, I feel like the change we need to prepare as early as primary school. Because if you can look at our education system now, when you visit school and want to discuss how are they doing in terms of technology, the first thing that they think of is having a tablet, a laptop, or some sort of video in the classroom. But that is not enough to prepare us for the revolution that is coming our way. What we need to start teaching is the convergence between human beings and machines working together. So I feel that our education system has to incorporate Internet of Things, using artificial intelligence to solve problems in all sectors, education, health, farming, agriculture. We have to incorporate using artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, big data, and whatnot. For now, I feel like we are not yet prepared for the revolution that is coming our way. And we need, the education sector needs to incorporate Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, big data, and working together between human beings and machines to prepare for the new market that's coming our way.
Very valid point about the convergence between human beings and technology. Perhaps you can come in there, Mr. Radinku. In terms of the publishing sector, how has it evolved considering technological developments and so forth?
Yeah, the publishing industry, as you know, I mean, its main activity is to prepare and issue books, journals, and other material for sale or other purposes. So it essentially remains a content creation industry. Therefore, the entire process of developing manuscript, laying them out, designing them, putting illustrations, photographs, moving to the next stage of proofreading them, typesetting, whatever, and printing them or issuing them as ebooks. That process remains. What becomes critical is that technology has now imposed upon the industry a need that comes from the readers. The readers are saying, we want to read your material as print. Others are saying, no, we don't want print. We want, I want to read it using the notebook or the iPad. Somebody says, and then there's a community of the visually blind and the visually impaired who says, look, we can't read your stuff, but the best thing you can do is to help us format it into an audiobook, because that way, when somebody reads a novel, I can read it by listening to what has been produced. Therefore, one of the biggest challenges that the industry is facing is to ensure that instead of maintaining the traditional process of producing a book that I've outlined earlier in summary, and you end up with a PDF and you print a book, you now have to, right from the start, incorporate the service of a digital content creator who, right from the start, work with you on how to produce that material. That way, when you use new formats like the EPUB format, you can just have this one software that enables you to produce a printing version if people want a printing version or an ebook or an audio book. And people don't like what they call text behind glass, i.e. that means you take a novel and you just put it there. They want an interactive ebook. So that is the kind of impact of technology, and therefore by implication on the publishing processes and the jobs that are there. And the industry is responding very well to that. There are two challenges that we face. The one is that only your large companies are able to have been able in the last few years to do research, experiment, and even produce ebooks materials, but we would need to help the SMMEs to be able to move in that direction. But also the students who are coming through the pipeline must come already prepared to introduce this skill into the industry, because in South Africa, that digital element has not been incorporated into the companies. The companies are working collaboratively with the technology companies. So we need then to bring those students to come in. But for those employees who are already in the system, we would need to then start reskilling them on how probably to get your commissioning editors and the rest to work with the digital people.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, Nyari, maybe you can come in here. You know, we speak about the benefits of technology and its advancement as well. However, you know, anything that comes into power or comes into play also has its disadvantages. Do you think we have regressed as a society, business, education, some of the social challenges because of technology? Maybe can you just highlight some of the disadvantages that we are seeing in industry because of digitalization?
Well, I think I wouldn't say regressed so much as I think certain progressions expose cracks that were always in our society. So extreme inequality in South Africa is not new. It's been with us for a long time. What digital then exposes is that further drift. It becomes acutely apparent that we have this inequality. So listening to Mpuka speaking, I'm nodding vigorously because I violently agree with everything he's saying. When you think of technology, one of the things we often emphasize is that in Africa, we need to shift from a place where we are thinking of ourselves as consumers of technology to creators of technology. And then we need to have this paradigm shift from what is it to create technology? Is this magic hocus pocus? And the reality is it's not. It's an advancement of things we've always done. So when I listen to this description in the context of publishing, everything Mpuka is describing has always been there in the industry of publishing. But what technology does is it brings a new tool set that allows us to go further. That toolset makes something that wasn't accessible to a blind learner accessible, to a blind consumer of publishing content accessible, to a deaf consumer of publishing content accessible, right? And so when you think of it, we need Mpuka at the table because he's an expert on publishing, but he needs a technologist at the table who is an expert on taking everything he knows about publishing and putting it into a digital context. So the idea that the machines are coming to take our jobs is not a truth. What it is that the machines are coming to increase the richness of our jobs. Don't waste time printing things at the computer all day, printing papers and binding books. Rather, invest time in driving accessibility so more people can enjoy this book than before because we've put it on a digital platform. A person who has been a writer and a creator of content continues to be a writer and a creator of content, but a person who was in a low-skilled job feeding paper into a printing press. My mother used to be the MD of a newspaper, and the printing press is huge, Tabang. It looks like a house, right? And it starts over there and you feed this paper and you set these plates, and then those plates are used to then print out the words that you see in those thin columns for thousands and thousands and thousands of newspapers. What technology allows us to do is essentially convert the content that was this book into a digital framework where you can read it, you can hear it, you can watch it. And I think that's the power. And not only that, more people can reach it. We shouldn't be having a complexity of where did the textbooks go on their way to Limpopo? Because why? They're on a digital platform. So someone in Limpopo gets them at exactly the same time that someone who's sitting in the Western Cape or in Gauteng gets them. And so to me, digital is about this paradigm shift that says the problems we've always needed to solve can now be solved better because we have a transformative toolkit. And our youth should be sitting at the table of using this transformative toolkit to actually create access rather than exclusion. So it's an exciting time to be alive. We just need to get organized and make sure that our youth are equipped with the skills to participate, because they've got the smarts, what John was describing as regular intellect, they have it. What we're missing is the policy frameworks and the platforms that transition them into participating.
Absolutely. Policy frameworks and platform. That's very key with what you mentioned. Maybe, Semenya, you can come in here. You spoke about the convergence of human beings and technology. Do you think technology can help us with employment creation? Do you think it can help us in terms of improving this unemployability rate that we currently have in Africa, actually?
One thing that we cannot shy away from is that technology is definitely going to disrupt employment issues. And for a couple of years, people might lose jobs due to the new development of technology. But if we get things right and start preparing our youth for the future, they will be able to incorporate the new technology and human to work together. But then we can't shy away from the fact that for now, it will definitely disrupt employment. Technology will be in the forefront. Some people will lose jobs because of this. But then once we get it right of working together between human beings and technology, we will get to a point where it will be actually beneficial for us.
Thank you. John, maybe you can come in here. I've been exposed to most of your presentations, and without fail, you really do refer a lot to the importance of mental health and so forth. How do we prepare young people, or how do we prepare humanity to handle the change and adversity that technology brings? Hi, John, you're muted.
Myself quiet. Yes, I know. Thank you. That's such a great question because I come from a background where I went to school in England, and I've been here for a long time. Mental health, and that was something you didn't talk about, was stigmatized. I then worked in New Zealand for a while, and everywhere around the institutions are these things, and 1 in 3 of us will suffer mental health issues in our lifetimes, probably more actually, particularly in lockdown. I mean, I certainly realized that during lockdown, it was more of a struggle to stay positive, be on top of things. I have great empathy for that. And so they say we must stop stigmatizing this. So the first thing is to not make this sound like it's something weird, that you have a mental health challenge. We all do. You have physical challenges, and that's but we don't talk about it, so we can't help each other. So firstly, let's open the door and just say this is part of our crazy life of looking at screens now, want to do it. The second thing is we need to bring resilience into people's lives. We need to educate people about this. We don't have a language to talk about psychological literacy. We teach all our students, we have a course on psychological literacy, so we can talk about these things. Now we can engage with it. And the third thing is we need to move away from this purely academic achievement sense. People don't succeed. Tom Peters used to say, a very famous old guru, says the A students who become the doctors and barristers, okay? It's the B students who become the directors, and it's the C students who own the businesses. Now, coming from a business school dean, that sounds like a pretty weird thing to say, doesn't it? But it's true that you become very narrow and specialized. To be a business person, you need resilience. You need to go across things. So
that's right.
People to talk. Now, one of the great things that when I came to Africa for the first time 40 years ago, I felt like frozen parts of me were unfreezing because of the openness, the bravery, the courageousness, and just the richness of the culture. And I felt that that was something enormously healthy and empowering for me, that is embedded in the sort of open cultures. And I think that we must understand how much power sits on the outsider's point of view in traditional cultures towards bringing people mental health. Stop trying to amplify that. It's really powerful. And I can tell you from somebody who's experienced it.
Thank you very much, John. Maybe you can come in there, Mr. Radinku. What are the trends in the labor market with respect to publishing? I know earlier on you spoke about, evolving to ebooks and so forth. But for those that have a relationship with paper and they prefer printed books, how do you guys cater? I'm one of them as well, Nyari. How do you guys, and John, how do you guys cater for us, basically?
Yeah, the most helpful thing is that because the majority of publishers are commercial publishers,
yes,
they have no option but to say to themselves, what does the reader want? And therefore their business plans and their business strategies and their business objectives depend entirely on that response that they get. Therefore, what obtains in South Africa in terms of publishing is that the publishers publish in 3 large areas: one for schools and universities, and thirdly for the general readership, which we call trade. In terms of okay, the first thing I must say is that outside publishing, there's a challenge in this country of bandwidth. Therefore, that creates a problem in that the majority of your readers in South Africa still prefer print. And one of the indicators that tells us that is the survey that is conducted annually. We've just released one now that is on our website. And the numbers there are telling us that of the 2.9 billion of revenue that was received at the end of March 2021, the majority, or rather the large amount of that revenue comes from print. We don't know once policy changes and infrastructure is in place, whether that will pick up. Another indicator that tells us what is happening is that we are monitoring digital sales. And it starts at a very low base. But what we are noticing is that even at that low base, it's increasing. So therefore, the publishing industry is gearing itself to supply not just for printing, because we know the print people are sentimental with their book, the smell, whatever.
Yes.
We don't want to offend them, but we also like to cater for the young generation and those who would like to, go through their novel in a gadget. And that's why it's significant for any publisher, whether an established publisher or a self-publisher, to think about the format right at the beginning to produce the kind of content that can go either way, so that if this readership says, this is what we want, you offer them that, just like that. So that's one of the trends we're picking up, that digital books are at a very low base, but they are growing. It's unlike in Europe, where you sometimes find they still do print, but really print is used to market digital. Here we still the other way around, but I can sense that the more we go into the future, digital will grow, and therefore publishing have to pick up those trends. Then those trends impact on your own production process, your marketing processes, because then you've got to market more online and all other processes. That's part of what we're picking up.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm just going to request all of you to provide us with your closing remarks. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. So in this 5 minutes that is left, please can you just, actually it's 8 minutes that is left. Please can you just give us your closing remarks and perhaps some of the challenges that we didn't engage with on this platform with possible recommendations. Like for example, Mr. Radingwa, I would have loved to hear more about what are the challenges that the publishing industry is faced with right now? And maybe it's in terms of access, and how is that helping SMMEs as well to improve or to increase their base, or even just be included in the mainstream economy, you know? So perhaps let me start with you, Mr. Pedley. Can you give us your closing remarks, and then we'll have Nyari, and then we'll have Riabetswe and Mr. Radingo.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank you, Tabang, and all the other panelists. I've learned so much. This has been such fun. I really appreciate the comments. And I think for me, there's 2 or 3 things that really matter. We think we do university and then we work. It's impossible to think like that now. We have to learn all our lives. We have to. We have to. Now, if you've missed undergraduate education, whatever it is, you can go back to it in the middle of your career. So grab and seize your right and your opportunity to get educated. Doesn't matter who you get it from. Just do that. It's part of life now. It's the one thing that will raise us all, get us running better businesses, using money better, building society, providing opportunities. We have to educate with a ferocity that is almost obsessive. Just do it. We will help.
Absolutely. You sound like also an ambassador for Nike there. Just do it. We appreciate it.
Just do it. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Pedley. Truly appreciated. Nyari?
I think I echo John's comments and appreciation for the panel and what I've been able to learn on it. And definitely this idea of lifelong learning, this idea of breaking away from the stereotypical view of who can do what and who can be useful where. We're seeing a lot of career switching taking place, where I started out as an accountant. People start out in one place, they switch over to technology, and then at some point they're in publishing, and then they become a writer, and et cetera, et cetera. And the truth is that that mobility is good. And technology works as a tool that can enable us in that mobility. But at the core of what we're able to contribute is the tool set that we have as creators. And I think for me, I agree with Riabetswe's earlier comment that as early as, early childhood education in preschool, in primary school, we need to start teaching children to code, not because everybody is going to be a superpower programmer, John referred to the Marvel level intellect, but rather this idea that the more aware we are of technology as a tool, of technology as a capacitator, the more our thinking is different. And the better we are at creating options and solutions. So I think I'm excited about a world that encourages lifelong learning, that equips everybody with some level of digital skill so that they have access and a way in. And the realization that these changes are not insurmountable. There was a time when a Black woman as an accountant was not a thing. There was a time when reading was reserved for the scribes and the high clergy. And now the majority of people have at least a base level of literacy. So we're not standing at the precipice of a new world never seen before. It's something that as humanity we have achieved in the past. We just need to be systematic. We just need to decide which turf we want to start on. And then we just need to direct our resources and our discipline to executing in increasing the levels of digital literacy in Africa so that we can become creators and not consumers of the solutions that we need.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nyari. Thank you, much appreciated. Riabetswe?
Thank you, Tabang. In closing, I feel like we're living in exciting times. Technology is here. We need to embrace it. What the challenges that I can identify at the moment is that even though South Africa, we're a developing country, but then most of our schools in the rural areas and townships still don't have access to technology, still don't have access to simple things like gadgets, a tablet, or a laptop. These people, some of them only get to connect to these things in varsity. So what I would like to see moving forward is that for accessibility for our people in rural areas, townships, to get access to coding, to get access to laptops, computers, tablets, whatsoever, so that they can be innovators. And that's exactly what we need for the future. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rembetso. Thank you. Mr. Radinku?
Thank you, ma'am. I'd like to echo the sentiments of all my colleagues that this has been a very inspiring and insightful exchange of ideas. As publishers, we often like to listen carefully in order to identify where the gems are and possibly to get them published so that everybody benefits. Quickly, just to say that in publishing, we view technology as exactly as Nyari indicated, as a tool that should enhance the industry to be able to help the country's educational and cultural development. And therefore, it is very important that as an industry, we position the industry in such a way that it is of service to the communities around which it operates, which is why we try as much as possible these days to get information about publishing out there, so that people must not always say when their children say, I want to be a publisher, they say, what? What is that? And so that people know what the industry do so that it can grow. Just quickly, you did indicate about that you needed to have picked up on what the challenges are. I'll be quick.
Okay.
Here are the few challenges in the industry. The first one is that in this country, we've got a small readership. When I mean readership, I don't mean at school, I mean the general readership. In 2016, a survey that was undertaken by the SABDC, the National Reading Survey, indicated only 14% of people were dedicated readers. That in business terms mean that there's a small pool of people who buy books, and therefore has a knock-on effect on the price of books, because the lower the economies of scale, the higher the prices of books. Another challenge is the volatile education market. You've got a big education market that is bigger than your general market, and therefore anything that happens in the education market impacts the industry. Therefore, it is important that the industry and the education authorities have a very, very meaningful relationship. The legislative angle as well, you know about the Copyright Amendment Bill, because if the rights of authors are not protected, we're going to find it very hard to convince the writer to not go and on their leisure activities, but ride over the weekends at night. They're going to say, for what? And of course, there is transformation challenges. We have issued the survey numbers out there. You can see where the areas where we still need to react. I mean, there's a page in our report that talks about employment stats, and you can see that the first three or so high level jobs, that there is still that Black people are still lower there, but the lower jobs we have moved from where we are. So there are transformation challenges. The same with SMMEs. There are programs that we are developing, and the last one is making sure that we also get our books exported, because if we import a lot of books and don't export, then there's a problem right there. In one sentence, how we plan to do this, fortunately, government has brought the industry with other players together to look at something called a master plan to grow the industry, and these challenges are being addressed in there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Indeed, you are a publisher who understands language. In one sentence, my last statement, also, I really appreciated that. Nyari, just quickly, we had a question from you, from the audience. Please try to answer it if you can. Lucas is asking, Nyari, what about the over 35-year-olds who are keen for such but disadvantaged by age?
It's a challenge. It's legitimate. I think within our context, we've had to, pick a patch of earth to work on. But there are definitely a lot of programs that are available online. And what you're finding is increasingly, there's a lot of learning material for learning to code that is free online. So I would encourage people to look for that and actually access that and use that. Because about 25% of practicing software developers actually describe themselves as self-taught. And so while you might not have access to We Think Code as an academic program, there are definitely a lot of other opportunities that make it possible to pathway people into digital skills.
Sure. Thank you very much. So this was such a insightful, John. I really share the same sentiments that you reiterated, that we've equally learned so much. And thank you for the knowledge that you have imparted. Your energy is absolutely impeccable. And I really believe that all of you here have impacted many lives in the spaces and organizations that you are working with and are exposed to. And I really wish you the best of luck. Please don't be surprised when people in our audience reach out to your emails on social media. This was one of our panels that really people were absolutely captivated by. So thank you for your time and all the best for your future endeavors. Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the panel discussion on technology, jobs, and the future of work. We had Mr. Pedley from the Henley Business School, who's the Dean and Director there. We also had Ms. Nyari Samushonga, who's the CEO of We Think Code. We had Ms. Rabetswe Simenya, Managing Director at John Back Solutions. And last but not least, we had Mr. Mpuka Radingu, Executive Director at Publishers Association of South Africa. That was our panel. Stay tuned for the next one.